Welcome back to Curivella. Today we step into the fog-covered streets of Jack the Ripper, a killer whose identity remains unsolved to this day. Together, we'll uncover what lies behind this dark and mysterious story.
Jack the Ripper, the silent history of London's darkest nights. 1. The fog, the fear, and the setting. In the fog-choked streets of Victorian London, beneath the flickering glow of gas lamps and the echo of carriage wheels on wet cobblestones, a shadow moved with surgical precision. He carried no name, no face, and left behind only mutilation, fear, and a mystery that has survived more than 130 years. Today, he is known to the world as Jack the Ripper, but the truth is far more complex than the legend. This is the most complete, deeply researched, and psychologically dissected exploration of the case you will ever hear. To understand Jack the Ripper, we first have to understand the world that created him. London in 1888 was a city split in half. The wealthy lived in gilded mansions illuminated by chandeliers, while only a few miles away, the East End rotted in poverty, disease, and crime. Whitechapel, where Jack the Ripper hunted, was a maze of dark alleys, overcrowded slums, and buildings so decayed that even police officers avoided patrolling them at night. More than 900,000 people lived in the East End, many sleeping in single-room lodging houses shared with strangers. Alcoholism was epidemic, violence was common, and life expectancy was brutally low. It was a society on the edge, the perfect hunting ground for a predator who could blend into the shadows. Before the murders even began, Whitechapel was a pressure cooker of desperation. Thousands of women turned to survival prostitution just to obtain food or shelter for the night. Police were overwhelmed, understaffed, and ignorant of modern investigative science. Photography existed, but forensic analysis was in its infancy. Fingerprinting was not yet used in Britain. DNA analysis was a century away, and crime scenes were routinely contaminated by crowds, reporters, and curious onlookers. This was the world into which Jack the Ripper stepped, a world where he could kill with near impunity. The accepted canonical victims, Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly, were all murdered between August and November of 1888. But the truth is that we still do not know how many victims Jack the Ripper actually had. Some experts believe there were more, others believe fewer. What we do know is that his murders escalated with chilling precision. Each crime showed increasing anatomical knowledge, growing boldness, and a disturbing familiarity with the human body. His first victims were killed quickly, with throats cut from left to right. But soon mutilations escalated, abdominal organs removed, faces slashed, bodies positioned deliberately. These acts were not chaotic outbursts. They were controlled, purposeful, and carried out with an almost ritualistic methodology. The press was a powerful force in 1888, and Jack the Ripper weaponized it. Newspapers sensationalized the killings, selling millions of copies and turning the murderer into the world's first global media celebrity. For the first time in history, a serial killer's crimes were broadcast internationally in almost real time. The public became addicted to the horror. Every new murder brought larger headlines, more panic, and more pressure on the police. It was during this frenzy that the killer sent letters, or at least letters attributed to him, signed with a name that would echo through history: Jack the Ripper. Whether he truly wrote them remains debated. But what matters is this: the name stuck, and the legend was born. But behind the legend is a very real investigative failures. Crime scenes were not preserved. Witness statements were contradictory. Police departments refused to cooperate fully with each other. And perhaps most damaging, class prejudice blinded the investigation. Authorities assumed the killer must be a foreigner, a Jew, or a poor laborer, never considering that he might be a respected man blending effortlessly into society. The police never created an accurate psychological profile because profiling itself did not yet exist. To truly understand Jack the Ripper, we must reconstruct his psychology using modern forensic science. His killings show evidence of a disorganized yet methodical offender, someone with anatomical familiarity, possibly from medical training, slaughterhouse work, or mortuary experience. His murders required privacy, speed, and control. He was likely socially invisible, not because he hid, but because he appeared ordinary. Most experts believe the Ripper was a white male between 25 and 40, living in or near Whitechapel, able to walk the streets unnoticed. His ability to remove organs in dim light suggests not only anatomical knowledge, but a calmness under extreme pressure. He was not frenzied, he was focused. This was not a killer who panicked. This was a killer who planned.
Chapter 2: The Canonical Five, Tragedy in Sequence. The legend of the Ripper often overshadows the heartbreaking reality of the victims. To truly honor the history, we must look at the women who were caught in the killer's shadow. These were not merely footnotes in a crime story. They were mothers, daughters, and wives wrestling with the brutal conditions of Whitechapel. Mary Ann Nichols, Polly, the first sign. Born in 1845, Mary Ann Nichols was known to friends as Polly. She was 47 years old at the time of her death. Polly had known a life of relative stability, having been married with 5 children, but the pressures of poverty and her own struggle with alcohol led to separation. She was last seen alive on the night of August 30th, 1888, desperately trying to raise the 4pence needed for a bed at a lodging house. Her body was discovered just before 4 a.m. on August 31st in Bucks Row. The violence was swift but contained. Her throat had been brutally cut twice. Her death, initially treated as a common murder, was the opening act. It was the moment the shadow solidified. Her simple end, far from the light of civilization, announced the arrival of the unseen killer. The world barely noticed a poverty-stricken woman was gone, but the men of the Metropolitan Police saw a horrifying challenge. Annie Chapman, Dark Annie, the Grapes of Terror. Annie Chapman, 47, was struggling even more profoundly than Polly. She was described as delicate, often ill, and like many, relying on sex work to pay for her lodging at Crossingham's, a common Whitechapel lodging house. Annie had recently fallen after a fight, leaving her with bruises. She was murdered on September 8th, just over a week after Polly. Her body was found in the backyard of 29 Hanbury Street. Here, the killer escalated his brutality dramatically. Not only was her throat cut, but she was severely mutilated. Her abdomen cut open, and certain organs were removed. Near her body, police found a leather apron, a comb, and 2 small brass rings. Witnesses reported seeing Annie talking to a dark-haired man around 5:30 a.m. A tall, foreign-looking individual wearing a deerstalker cap. This was the first murder to truly seize the public's attention. The surgical nature of the crime suggested a person with highly specific knowledge. Annie Chapman's death terrified Whitechapel, as it confirmed a pattern of escalating violence. Elizabeth Stride, Long Liz, and Catherine Eddowes, Kate, the night of September 30th, saw the killer reach his peak of audacity. This was known as the double event. Elizabeth Stride, 45, was a Swedish woman known as Long Liz. She was found at approximately 1 a.m. in Dutfield's yard off Burner Street. Liz's throat was cut, but unlike the others, there was no mutilation. Evidence suggests the killer was interrupted. Witnesses saw a man with Liz moments before the murder, and a carter named Louis Diemschutz drove into the yard and likely scared the Ripper away moments after the attack. This interruption may have saved the killer from being caught red-handed, but it robbed the investigation of immediate clues. Catherine Eddowes, Kate, was found only 45 minutes later in Mitre Square, a small enclosed space near the City of London border, meaning the killer crossed police jurisdictions, displaying staggering boldness. Kate's murder was exceptionally brutal. Her mutilations were extensive, far beyond Annie Chapman's. An entire kidney was removed, and her face was slashed. This confirmed the killer's methodical, surgical approach. The fear reached its peak of pitch. The killer was now operating with impunity, crossing city lines and taunting the authorities with a second murder immediately following an interruption. Later that night, a blood-stained piece of Kate's apron was found in Goulston Street, near which police found a piece of graffiti. The U's are the men that will not be blamed for nothing. This inflammatory graffiti further complicated the case, leading to intense anti-Semitic speculation, though authorities quickly dismissed the graffiti as a local distraction.
Mary Jane Kelly, the final, unfathomable horror. Mary Jane Kelly, 25, was the youngest and the last of the canonical victims. Unlike the others, she was not killed in an alley or a yard. She was killed inside her own room at 13 Miller's Court, a small, isolated room behind a boarding house. She was last seen in the early hours of November 9, 1888. Her body was discovered that afternoon. The scene was the most horrific in the history of the case, suggesting the Ripper had finally had the time and privacy he lacked in the streets. Her mutilations were extreme and total. The full extent of the horror cemented the Ripper's legacy not just as a killer, but as a butcher, a creature of pure surgical malice. After Mary Jane Kelly, the killings abruptly stopped. The fog of terror remained, but the silent shadow was gone. Chapter 3: The Riot of the Press and the Letters. The legend of Jack the Ripper was not born in the alleys of Whitechapel, but in the newsrooms of London. The press, hungry for sales, created the persona. The police were fighting a ghost. The newspapers were selling a monster. Chief Inspector Frederick Aberline was the lead investigator. He was a capable officer, but he and his team were fighting a system designed to fail. Policing in 1888 relied on local knowledge, intuition, and the cooperation of the community, none of which were sufficient to catch a fast-moving, calculating serial killer. Contradictory witnesses. Eyewitness accounts were numerous but wildly contradictory. The killer was described as tall, short, fair, dark, foreign, and English. The poor lighting, the fog, and fear made reliable identification impossible. Contaminated scenes. The crime scenes were immediately swamped by police, doctors, and the local population. Crucial evidence was walked over, handled, and lost. Lack of communication. Scotland Yard and the City of London police were separate entities, often refusing to fully cooperate or share information, crippling the overall investigation. The letters. The name that stuck. It was during this period of investigative chaos that the most enduring and perhaps most frustrating evidence appeared. Hundreds of letters poured into police stations and newspaper offices. Most of them were hoaxes. However, 3 stand out for their historical impact, even if their authenticity is still debated. The Dear Boss letter, received September 27, 1888. This was the first time the murderer claimed a name. It arrived at the Central News Agency and was initially dismissed as a fake. It was written in red ink, containing a mocking, almost theatrical tone. Original text, partial. Dear Boss, I keep on hearing the police have caught me, but they won't fix me just yet. I have laughed when they look so clever and talk about being on the right track. That joke about Leather Apron gave me real fits. I'm down on whores and I shan't quit ripping them till I get locked up. Grand work the last job was. I gave the lady no time to squeal. How can they catch me now? I love my work and want to start again. You will soon hear of me with my funny little games. I saved some of the proper red stuff in a ginger beer bottle over the last job to write with, but it went thick like glue and I can't use it. Hope you like the next job. Yours truly, Jack the Ripper. Don't mind me giving the trade name. When Catherine Eddowes was found dead 3 days later, her mutilations matched the letter's chilling promise of grand work. The press ran with the name and the legend was christened. The Saucy Jacky postcard, received October 1st, 1888. This was sent the day after the double event, mocking the murders of Stride and Eddowes. Original text. I was not codding dear old boss. When I gave you the tip, you'll hear about Saucy Jacky's work tomorrow. Double event this time. Number 1 squealed a bit. Couldn't finish straight off. Had not time to get the blood out of my knife before the next job. Hope you like. Good work. Yours truly, Jack the Ripper. The speed of its arrival and its reference to the double event convinced many, including some police officials, that it was genuine. It confirmed the police's deepest fear. The killer was enjoying the media spotlight. The From Hell letter, received October 16, 1888. This was the most sinister of the 3. It was sent to George Lusk, head of the Whitechapel Vigilance Committee, an organization formed by concerned citizens to help patrol the streets.
From Hell. Mr. Lusk, Sir, I send you half the kidney I took from one woman. Preserved it for you. T'other piece I fried and ate. It was very nice. I may send you the bloody knife that took it out if you only wait a while longer. Signed, Catch me when you can, Mr. Lusk. The letter included a small box containing a portion of a human kidney preserved in alcohol. Medical examination confirmed the kidney was human inconsistent with the one missing from Catherine Eddowes. While this confirmed the writer had access to police knowledge, it did not definitively confirm the Ripper was the author. Nevertheless, the physical evidence accompanying the letter cemented its place in infamy. IV, Chapter 4, The Ghosts of Suspicion, Reconstructing the Killer. The identity of Jack the Ripper remains the great unsolved riddle. For over a century, criminologists, historians, and amateur sleuths have proposed hundreds of suspects. To narrow the field, we rely on the subtle psychological profile hidden within the crimes. Someone with anatomical knowledge, local access, and a capacity for sudden extreme violence, followed by perfect camouflage. Suspect Profile 1. The Troubled Barrister, Montague John Druitt. Montague John Druitt was a barrister and an assistant schoolmaster. He was 31 years old and came from a family with a history of mental illness. The case. Druitt emerged as a suspect primarily because Chief Constable Melville MacNaughton of Scotland Yard named him as a highly probable suspect years later. MacNaughton claimed the murder ceased upon Druitt's death. Druitt's body was found floating in the River Thames on December 31, 1888, following an apparent suicide. The fit. His high social standing and education would have allowed him to pass unnoticed in Whitechapel. His legal training suggests a disciplined mind capable of planning. His mental fragility could account for the explosion of violence. The flaw. There is no hard evidence tying him to the crime scenes, and the exact timing of his mental decline and suicide doesn't perfectly align with the dates of the murders. Suspect Profile 2. The ill barber, Aaron Kosminski. Aaron Kosminski was a Polish Jewish immigrant and a barber who lived in the heart of Whitechapel. He was institutionalized shortly after the murders ceased, suffering from paranoid schizophrenia. The case. Kosminski was officially named by the lead police officer, Assistant Commissioner Donald Swanson, as the prime suspect, identified by an eyewitness who was too afraid to testify against a fellow Jew. He fits the local profile perfectly. The DNA evidence. Modern analysis, conducted on a shawl allegedly belonging to victim Catherine Eddowes, claimed to find mitochondrial DNA matches to Kosminski's descendants. While sensational, these DNA results have been heavily disputed by forensic scientists due to the high risk of contamination over 130 years. The fit. He lived in the area, fit a witness description, and his mental health issues provided a psychological explanation for the sudden violence and subsequent decline into silence. The conspiracy theories. Beyond the individual suspects, the enduring fascination with the Ripper led to grander, more dramatic theories that captured the public imagination. The royal conspiracy. The most famous conspiracy involves Prince Albert Victor, Queen Victoria's grandson, or his personal physician, Sir William Gall. This theory suggests the killings were ordered to silence witnesses to a secret royal marriage. This theory is historically unfounded, but fuels the legend of the powerful and protected killer. The Masonic theory. This theory focuses on the ritualistic nature of the murders and suggests high-ranking members of the Freemasons were involved, often linking the geometry of the crime scenes to Masonic symbolism. Like the royal theory, it lacks verifiable proof, but speaks to the public's distrust of closed institutions.
Chapter 5. The Silence and the Legacy. The greatest mystery of all is not who Jack the Ripper was, but why he stopped. After the brutal slaying of Mary Jane Kelly in November 1888, the most horrific crime scene in British history, the murders abruptly ceased. No farewell letter arrived. No similar crimes were confirmed in London. The ghost simply vanished back into the fog from which he came. Was he institutionalized like Aaron Kosminski? Did he die like Montague John Druitt? Did he flee the country like Francis Tumblety? Or did he simply accomplish whatever twisted internal purpose drove him and retire from his deadly work? The truth is lost to time, and that unanswered question is exactly why the case has remained alive for more than a century. Mystery fuels obsession. This is not just a story of violence. It is the story of how a single killer changed the world. Jack the Ripper transformed criminal investigation forever. Within years of his murders, forensic science underwent a revolution. Fingerprinting became standard. Crime scenes were secured. Behavioral profiling began to take shape. The Ripper case forced society to confront the dark reality that monsters can hide in plain sight, and that justice requires more than brute force. It requires science. To this day, criminologists study the Ripper as the prototype of the modern serial killer. He was organized, yet impulsive, bold yet cautious, intelligent yet monstrous. And while he is remembered for his brutality, the real story lies deeper, in the failures of law enforcement, the desperation of Whitechapel, and the evolving relationship between crime and the media. Jack the Ripper is not simply a man. He is the intersection of poverty, psychology, policing competence, and the birth of mass communication. The fog of London has long since lifted, the gas lamps replaced by neon, and the slums transformed into modern streets. But the shadow remains, a reminder that some mysteries refuse to die, a reminder that the world's most famous killer may have been just an ordinary man walking among thousands, unseen, unnoticed, and unremembered except for the terror he left behind. This is Jack the Ripper, the story of the killer who changed crime forever. Thanks for watching. If you found this video interesting, please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow.